Imaginary numbers. Here's the definition of an imaginary number. The square root of -1 is defined as I. That's it. Square root of -1 is defined as I. Let's look at an example. Which of one of these following is equivalent to square root of -4 plus square root of -9? So let me show you. I'm going to write it down here to get more room. Well, -4 is equivalent to -1 times 4. -9 is equivalent to -1 times 9. The square root of -1, we just said, was I. Square root of 4, what number times itself is 4? That answers 2. Square root of -1 over here again is I, and the square root of 9 is 3. So this is 2I plus 3I. That means you got 5 i's. So the answer is H. Next one, what is equivalent? We got square root of -9 times square root of -9. So let's see what we can do with this. If we were to rewrite this so that we have -1 times 9 times -1 times 9, the square root of -1 is I, square root of 9 is 3. Square root of -1 is still I, square root of 9 is still 3. This is going to give us 3 times 3, which is 9, times I squared. Now what is I squared? Don't necessarily have to memorize it. You have to memorize this fact, that the square root of -1 is I. So I'm going to use that fact to tell you what I squared is. If I take this equation and I square both sides, on the right I get I squared. On the left, if you square a square root, they cancel and you're left with -1. Therefore this is 9 times -1, which is -9. So the answer to this is A, -9. Number 3, if x is a positive integer, which one of the following could be the value of I to the 2x? Well, how about we do this? How about we put some numbers in for x to see if we can get one of these answers? Let's say that x is 1. That's going to be I to the 2 times 1, which is I squared, which we just said is -1. So we didn't get any of the answers there. Let's try x equals 2. Let's see what we get. It's going to be I to the 2 times 2, which is I to the 4th. I to the 4th is the same thing as I squared times I squared, which is -1 times -1, which is 1. Hey, we got this for an answer. There's no sense in continuing with this, because which one of the following could be the value of I to the 2x? Well, the answer could be 1. Moving on. Which of the following is an imaginary number? This is a positive square root, so it's not imaginary. Positive square root, not imaginary. The negative cubed root of 2, not imaginary. Not imaginary. D is imaginary. It's imaginary because, I shouldn't have circled those. Not have circled those because that implies the correct answer. Let me just mark those through. So 4 is the correct answer because the even root of a negative number is imaginary. Complex numbers. Complex numbers is when you combine all the real numbers and all the imaginary numbers together. So like, here's a complex number. I said all of them together. I just mean a term that has both. So like 3 plus 2i. That's a complex number. This is a real number, and this is imaginary. So let's see. Let's look at this example. We got 14i minus 3 minus 5 plus 9i. If we distribute the minus to get rid of the parentheses, we're going to get 14i minus 3 minus 5 minus 9i. If you combine like terms, minus 3 and a minus 5 is negative 8. Plus 14i and a minus 9i is going to give us a plus 5i. So the answer is negative 8 plus 5i. Essentially, you're just combining like terms. Imaginary numbers are like terms, real numbers are like terms. If 3 times 6x minus I equals 36 plus yi, which of the following are values of x, y? This seems really complicated. Truth of the matter, it is not. Let's first simplify this to get rid of our parentheses, and then we'll try to figure out how to do this problem. If we distribute the 3, we're going to get 18x minus 3i. And we get equals 36 plus yi. What you do next is you set the real parts equal to each other, and you set the imaginary parts equal to each other. So we're going to set 18x equal to 36. We're going to set negative 3i equal to yi. 18x equals 36. And we're going to set negative 3i equal to yi. So, since I'm here in blue, we're trying to get y by itself. We're going to divide both sides by I. Anything divided by itself is 1, so y is negative 3. Our red equation, if you divide both sides by 18, you get x is 2. So we're looking for the ordered pair 2, negative 3. Boom, C. Oh, we're getting close. Number 3 here, we're going to use the distributive property, the FOIL method, whatever you want to call it. Call it lots of things. Just call it straight up multiplication if you want. We are going to multiply the 2 times the 3 and get 6. 2 times the minus 5i and get negative 10i. 4i times 3 is 12i. 4i times a minus 5i is negative 20i squared. So that's going to be 6 and then a 10i plus, I subtract 10i plus a 12i is a plus 2i. And then an I squared over here is negative 1. So that means this is 6 plus 2i plus 20, which is 26 plus 2i, which is answer H. One more. Yay! Which of one of the following expressions is equivalent to this hot mess? Well, it's not really proper to have imaginary numbers on the bottom of a fraction. Why? I don't know. This just isn't. To fix it so that it's not down there, you want to multiply the top and bottom of the fraction by the conjugate of the bottom. Conjugate means it's the same complex number, but it's a plus sign. It's the opposite sign instead of what's there, I should say. So 5 minus 2i and 5 plus 2i, those are called conjugates. spell it. So I'll just write it sloppy and then erase it. We're going to multiply the conjugate of the denominator times the top and bottom. Using the distributive property, we're going to have 4 times 5, which is 20. 4 times 2i, which is 8i. 3i times 5 is 15i. 3i times 2i is going to be 6i squared. Our denominator, we got 5 times 5, which is 25. 5 times 2i is plus 10i. And then we have negative 2i and 5 is minus 10i. Negative 2i and a plus 2i is a negative 4i squared. When you multiply two conjugates, the middle two terms will always be the same with opposite signs, so they're always going to cancel. In our numerator, we got 20 combining like terms plus 23i plus 6 times negative 1. I squared is negative 1. Our denominator, we got 25 minus 4 times negative 1 because I squared is negative 1. We're getting close. So this here is a negative 6. Negative 6 plus 20 is 14. Plus 23i is not like terms. 25 minus a 4 times negative 1 is like 25 plus 4, which is 29. So we're looking here at answer B, 14 plus 23i over 29. Do yourself a solid. Do exercise set 4. Take your time. Also, don't waste time. Do your best. Peace out.